Let's give it up again for Henry and the film. I think one of the things we're going to do is we're going to start it off by having everybody ground themselves in the context of the film and what they're bringing to the floor tonight. But instead of going into a heavily moderated session, what we'll do is we'll quickly throw it out for questions, because I think with the time that we have, that's probably going to be the best. I'll try to wrangle it as best I can, but we're going to go a little bit more freeform. So we're going to start with Henry. Just give us a little bit more of the process that it took to get the film going. I think we told us a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor to be up here with these guys. Couldn't have made the film, of course, without the subjects who were so generous when we were making it. And of course, you know, and my friend Fabel is a historian of hip-hop and of the whole gang era and that. So he's joining us now with his expertise and his experience. The one, may she rest in peace, Rita Fetcher, is missing from here. The black and white footage was hers. The inspiration, she was an old school teacher in the sense that, as she says, she came to New York from New Jersey in the 60s, as she said, to join the revolution. So for her, teaching in a school in the Bronx at that time, she and her husband, who was teaching math, she was teaching art. Their thing was, the smart kids aren't in school, they're out in the street. You know, she would say, they're the leaders, and they're out there. Nobody's in school. So that was their take on it. Rita was a woman who was always on the cutting edge of things. She was hanging out with the Living Theater downtown, and she invited gang members from the Bronx to come downtown to hang out with the Living Theater. She brought people into her home as a family. She was really, definitely, as an artist. She also went on to do the, in those days you did drawings in courtrooms. You couldn't have cameras. So she did all the courtroom drawings of some famous trials like Hurricane Carter trial. She knew all of the radical lawyers like Kunstler. That was Rita, and she's a very special person. And I think without her, of course, none of this would have happened. I just guess we could launch into either asking for questions, or perhaps you guys have something to open up that you'd like to say. Otherwise, we'll jump into questions.
Well, before we do that,
this man right here, me and Blackie goes back to the time of the Jurassic era. We go back long time. Me and Blackie go back long time. I love this guy. And never have we ever approached each other in a fight. We always used to talk. Go to his house to cook. This guy could cook. You know what I mean? This guy, you know, but Blackie is still out here. Still Savage Coast. And I remember he told me, when was it? A good 8, 9 years, Benji, why don't you start the Ghetto Roads again, man? I said, come on, damn, Blackie, man. I already got my own gang. I got my wife and 7 children. She's the vice president. I got my boys over there. I mean, you know, but Blackie, yo, kid is still here.
So, let's take that a little forward, because I know that, I mean, you guys lived through this. Henry documented it. He took the footage that had been shot during that time and turned it into what we're seeing here. But you guys lived it. I mean, one of the things, 2 things I picked up right away is, I mean, I came much later, so my thing was like, when we were doing it, it was just cruise. It wasn't the same thing at all. But I understood the brotherhood thing, and then you guys, there was a time in the Boys Club where you all came together to sort of kind of reverse the trend because of what had happened. But how was it in those days when you were in the thick of it, where no one else understood what it was that was lacking, and why you formed the Brotherhood of Joining, the crews, the gangs, etc.? What was it for you personally that pulled you to that?
Look, initially, let's take it from the beginning. When we were in the Ghetto Brothers Club, Garate Charlie introduced me to Cornell Benjamin, Black Benji, which was in the film. So he came in September, joined in April, and I was observing him in the Ghetto Brothers Club. And I was checking this guy out. And I said, you know, Charlie, I like this guy. I like the way this guy articulates. Look at the way he talks to children. Look at the way he talks to adults. Why don't we drop the warlord and make this guy the peacemaker for the Ghetto Brothers? So I became a peacemaker. Come September. September comes around, and then you got a Ghetto Brothers scout who comes up to me and he says, Benji, there are 3 gangs coming down. The Mongos, these were Puerto Ricans that were baldy with their long hair like this. They were from Poland, right? And then you had the Black Spades, and then you had the 70 Motors. Well, they were coming down Lauren Rogers to go up to Robin King's to do a number of these kids. These are small kids, but they were very dangerous kids. So I said, Black Benji, the job is cut out for you. I remember these are the things how we felt inside at the time. Okay, we were bad, but there was something good about us too. There was that family instinct that came from where we were brought up. So I said to Black Benji, the job is cut out for you, my brother. Go take some Ghetto Brothers with you. No weapons, because we didn't have weapons. He said, go get the president's vice president warlords and bring them here so we can broker a peace. Well, he went over there. Ghetto brother comes in, an hour later runs in, looks at Charlie. Charlie, they're beating up Black Ben. I'm looking at Charlie. I demoted myself as president, gave the presidency to him. I became the vice president. Charlie was laughing. Nah, they're not going to do anything to Black Ben. Playboy runs in. Yo, Benji, they're beating up Black Ben. Let's go. So we went to that spot. What do I see a spot? Full of blood. I looked at these 2 Ghetto brothers. Go to remember the old Lincoln Hospital? Yeah. Go to the hospital, because we had a telephone number in the Ghetto Brothers Club. We had a telephone number. So they went over there. An hour later, they called Benji. Black Ben is dead. His head was cracked 4 ways, stabbed multiple times. I mean, he was completely gone. What is the first reaction of a leader? Revenge. But that's the easiest thing you can do, is to hit back. I'm a martial artist for years, and I've hardly ever used this. I was more a diplomat than fighting. So I said no. And a tear shed from my eye, because I was the one who sent them out there. So then we go to 158th Street and Trinity Avenue, and Charlie is mobilizing the Ghetto Brothers for the biggest war in the history of the South Bronx. And that would have been chronicled as the bloodiest war of all times, because there was not a gang in front of the Ghetto Brothers Club that wanted what? War. Yeah. Said no. I talked to Blackie, because Blackie had a big club at that time. Yo, Ben, whatever you want. Savage Storm, that Savage Skull, the Turbans. Ronald was there, ex-Ghetto Brother right here.
That's right.
And I said, oh. Right there. So I send out scouts. Charlie and I send out scouts. Charlie, what are you doing? That's not going to bring Black Benji back to life. What would it be if we started a war, then his death would have been in vain? This is the time to bring the clubs together. And the audio was there. The New York Times, the Post, you name them. What are you going to do? I said, I'm not going to do anything. Hands down. Told all divisions, no war.
His mother said no revenge.
That's right. But wait. As soon as I said that, the guy stopped. Stopped writing. The reporter, they stopped writing. I looked at the Ghetto Brothers. Brothers, you see what I mean? Here are newspaper men. All they want to see is that, and they want to show the world that we are a bunch of savages. That the only way we're going to deal with problems is to murder another brother. To murder another sister.
Through violence.
Through violence. And we ain't going that road. That's what we call, well, I send out scouts to bring all the leaders of the gang. We couldn't bring all of them. There was too many guys. So just the leaders. to broker a peace. To make a long story short, one of the guys come up to me who murdered Black Benji. Because in those days, you couldn't tell a cop, he did it, you can't do this or that. I said, Benji, I want to live. Please. I said, you're not going to die, my brother. One death is enough. Everything's going to be okay. After we said, we're not going to do it. All the guys, that's when you see in the film, what they got together. 4 or 5 years later, hip-hop was born. Think about that. What's the motto? What is my word in those days? A peaceful mind is a creative mind. Now you don't have to look behind you. If you walk into a turf, you don't have to look behind you because the peace tree was taking its toll. But check this out, loyalty. Oh, these guys. When the Ghetto Brothers started to shed their colors, it was a domino effect. The other gangs did the same thing. Not the Savage Codes. They retained, they went by the peace, but they stood Savage Codes. So Blackie was loyal to his boys. He said, no. I know that's what the Ghetto Brothers want. I ain't taking on my colors. But the point was, we still were like this. Look at that. I'm 62 years old. 17 years old. You're 17, right?
You got that right.
And we're still together. Thanks for that.
It's great that you underscore that point with that story, because that's one of the things, one of the presidents that moved a lot of things forward. And it actually, I remember even when I was in the Boys Club, that story would always be repeated. That's where I learned photography. And Ralph Porter, Harold Simpson, and the other people that were like running the center would always bring up that story whenever there was conflict, because they would always underscore the point that if you guys were able to do that, punks like us could do it easily.
That's right.
We weren't really running like you guys were running.
There's still a whole lot of things that can be done
So,
still.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
It still can be done, except that right now the system is taking away programs, fundings, and a whole lot of shit that wants to stagnate us and to keep us low at the bottom of the totem pole. So you know what? We ourselves have to, sacrifice. If you want to drink a 6-pack, drink 2 and save the rest of the money. Everybody chipping in. We don't need the system over there. We can do it on our own. But it takes time. We got to get everybody re-educated all over again. Is it going to work? If you put your mind to it, yes, it will work. If you don't put your mind to it, it's not going to work because you got doubts about yourself and about everybody else. You're scared to go forward. And that's what it is. Everybody, man, somewhere along the line, they're scared to go forward when they can just go out there and do what they really want to do.
And it was.
No, can I make a point? Sure. What he just said just now, the gangs were like little nations. If we can get along as little nations, how come the United Nations don't do what we did? We got together to broker a peace, but these are older men with suits and they can't do that?
Yeah, right.
All the wars that are happening worldwide and they can't get together and say, let me buy you a coffee and sit down and stop this
This
crap.
is why to this time now, they're still trying to figure out why are we still here banded together when they felt that we were supposed to be disbanded a long time ago. So now they want to see what makes us tick. Why are we still here? You know why? Because we're still in the same thing. And we want to push forward.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
So let's bring Popmaster Fabel into it, because I think kicking off from there, what do you think of the repercussions going forward as you saw it coming up and being part of everything that was happening in those early years that also evolved into hip-hop and breakdancing and everything else?
I want to thank you, Henry, for inviting me to be part of this panel. I'm a huge fan of your work.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. Besides being a really good friend since 1980, right?
Yeah.
Took that classic shot.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been really impressed with your work and your integrity. And so thank you. And I want to also say that I'm honored to be here with Benji and Blackie, because they're like my older brothers. And I want to ask permission to be able to express myself. So, brother.
Yeah, sure.
Gracias. I came way after the fact, But I grew up on a block. What's interesting is when I first saw Flying Cut Sleeves, it's because of Flying Cut Sleeves that I got to meet Benji and Blackie. And I started working on a film called Apache Line, From Gangs to Hip Hop, because I wanted to sort of take it just in that direction a little more. I know the end of Flying Cut Sleeves has the little kids writing graffiti, so definitely Henry touched on it, you know what I mean? But there's more, of course, there's always more. I mean, so that's how I met Blackie and Benji. When I went to interview Blackie, I showed him what I had. I grew up on 123rd Street between Lexington and Park. There was a gang there called the Savage Samurais. And this guy called Sinbad, who I interviewed, was mentioning that he originally was 1st Division Savage Skulls, and that he was called Chains. So then Blackie goes, pause that. And I'm in his crib, and so I paused it. I said, what's good? He said, well, look at my wall. And I looked at the wall, and there was a photograph of them, back then, 1st Division Savage Skulls, with Chains sitting on a garbage can with his back facing the lens, and his colors on, and on the bottom it said Chains. That was Sinbad from the Savage Samurais. He was originally Chains. Ooh. So I started connecting the dots. So the point is that the same thing that was happening in the Bronx was happening in Spanish Harlem, was happening in Brooklyn, was happening all around the city, where street families were formed for various reasons. Some of it was, of course, wanting to find identity, your identity, and people that you gravitated towards based on a common interest. With everything that, with the Young Lords Party and the Black Panther Party, there was a revolutionary spirit to it. And then on the other hand, it was just straight up whatever it is you wanted to do with your crew. Growing up around the Savage Samurais, I think it gave me a little bit of an idea of what it would be like to be in that sort of society. I was too young. I was more afraid of my mother's ass whooping than the Apache line. Good. Trust me, she's old school Puerto Rican Jibara. She would have put it on me lovely. Ooh, buddy. Right? That means yank and cocotazo all in one. Like on some Bruce Lee speed. So I never really became part of it. The baby samurais tried to draft me and my brother. They were huffing glue in the stairs. And we asked them about the color. Oh yeah, we want you to be baby samurais. You know, Chiquitín and Luisito. And me and my brother were like, yeah, picture me and you going home with these frickin', the colors were pretty though, but we were like, skull throwing fire, but we were like, hell no, mom would frickin' beat the fire out of our ass. So that never happened. So let's fast forward a little bit, and how it transfers into me is, like you mentioned, the cruise. The cruise came out, that's when I was a little older. It went from being dirty down, grimy, biker style, smelling like you didn't bathe for 2 weeks, to like polished, rocking Puma Clydes, the sweatshirt, but your colors were still there. Rocksteady crew, Zulu Nation. So we more or less inherited what they started and kind of refined it in terms of the aesthetics and being fly, you know, fly guy and fly girls, and this whole hip hop thing. But really the concept was quite the same. I remember the first time I became a member of the Universal Zulu Nation and came with my sweatshirt to my block, I was nervous. I'm not gonna front. These guys became Down Boys crew. 65% of the Savage Samurais and other gangs in my neighborhood became DBC. That's when the drug money came in. Now they're selling drugs, hard body. The colors were red and white. I got black and white. Of course, a couple of the old timers were like, yo, what the fuck is that, Fabel? What's this Zulu shit, you know? And I had a whole lot of explaining to do. And thank God I grew up there, and they watched me grow up since I was, since the age of 4. And thank God for my beautiful older sisters, who they all had crushes on. That shit helps. And then, like, once I started getting nice with the dancing and all that, that was it. They were like, okay, don't bother this kid. He's got a talent, etc. So again, there was that protection thing. And I guess I don't want to say much more, except that even though we tried to take another path, we were still misunderstood, and people saw us as a gang. whether it was Rocksteady, whether it was Zulu, the fact that we wore iron-on letters on a shirt and were in uniform with everyone else, we fell right into that category. Why is that? Because you also had Homeboys Only, Bad Latin Squad, you know, Criminals in Action. You had all these other crews, Mastermind, Mastermind, right? And then, so what happened was that the crews sort of started to take the heat for the generation before us. And still in all, I mean, I think that hip-hop, for the most part, alleviated most of that, because as much as they put us on gang lists and all of that stuff, when they saw us throwing our parties and dancing and having fun, they couldn't figure it out. They were like, wait a second, aren't they a gang? Right. And so there was sort of that, ambiguity, like, what are these guys doing?
But now from seeing the film again and seeing you guys together here, there is a through line though, because I think the example you guys set with the peace meeting sort of somehow got into the b-boy thing too, because what happened was, as far as I remember it, a lot of times when there was beef, it didn't turn into beef. It was about, let's settle it on the carpet, or we're going to do this, or we're going to battle, or we're going to MC it out or something. And that sort of became part of the DNA, where it's almost like you took a page from the maestros that came before, but you guys took it to another level where now it became about the competition of creativity, which is exactly what you were saying in the film. And I think also, the knowing thing, the thing that strikes me about Rita, is that when you hear her with the voiceover over the film, she's talking about children, and she's talking about them in a way that is, she understands them, she understands there are issues there, but she's talking about them as people. Whereas everybody else that was coming in to try to get a quick picture and kind of see if they're going to get a scoop on a rumble, she understood it. She understood that it wasn't that you guys were out there being savages, you just didn't have certain things that you needed as young children, whether it was a steady home, if that were the case, and that's not the case in there, because I think a lot of us grew up in the streets I did in a different era, but it wasn't because I didn't have a mother at home. My mother was like yours. If I was hanging out in the building, we used to make clubs, I would hear like the crunching of the plaster, and I'm thinking it's like some tecato coming in to steal the metal, and it would be my mom to pull my ear and take my ass home. So we had that, but we also found a brotherhood in the street. So I think that you can see how that whole thing came back.
See what you just said about your mother? Now, Blackie knew my mother and father. They never knew I was in the gangs. Never. Remember Soul Train people?
Yeah.
Remember when the guy comes dancing and people move out the way?
Yeah.
So I'm talking to the ghetto. Remember, ghetto brothers, by all means necessary. Hey, Benji, there's this old man looking at you over there. I went, oh, my pops. Oh, what am I going to do? Man. And I'm walking right down the aisle. And the ghetto brothers are looking at me. And I look at them, and those are Hispanics. I say, bendición. When we say, bless me, Father, and he said, may God bless you. Bendición, Pa. And then I looked and I said, what are you doing here? I can explain. Oh, really? And in front of all my boys, Papi, please don't do this. And he walked me from 162nd Street, my headquarters, down 163rd Street in the summer while everybody was in the street. And I'm walking with my tippy toes like this. He says, go upstairs. We lived in 940 Tiffany. Go upstairs, go take a bath. Go take a bath. You know what I'm thinking? Old Testament beating. My father was going to hit me. My father was going to hit me with the commandments. The real ones. Man, he had a belt like that. I said, oh, man. And then I bathed myself. I came out with the towel. And then I dressed up. And I went. He said, sit down. Talk to me. I told him the whole story, Papi. I didn't want to join the gang because if I would have joined the gang, then I would have done whatever the president wanted me to do. If he says to do this, I had to do it. So I started my own club since I had a lot of friends. And the things you taught me, I'm teaching them. And he says, I know everything about you. And I said, how you know? Because the people in the community told me what you're doing. The people looked out for me. So he said, but because you did not tell me the truth, you're going to stay in lockdown for 2 weeks. A week passed, Blackie. The block on Tiffany was full of ghetto brothers. Yo, Benji! I looked out the window. What is it? When are you coming down? My father was standing right behind me. I go, my daddy doesn't want me to go out. My daddy doesn't want me to go out. So, you know what that tells you? I love my father. I respect it. To me, he was a real president. So I went back to the club and I looked at the guys. Don't start. Don't start. I'll start a gang right now and I'll beat you guys up. We saw you. No, Ronald, you remember my pops. My father was a big man, hands like that, and big ears. And he had 2 grocery stores, superintendent 4 buildings. And Bobby was not the type of person like today's parents. I'll get you home. No, he got you right there.
Right in there.
Right in the street.
That's right.
And he used to go with these hands. Oh my God. And when I listen to me, Bobby, please, no. What is it that, no, first he slapped me for the moment, my boy, I started to cry.
So I think we got enough context for just a moment.
Yes, sir.
And I think not to cut you off, but I think we could probably get better questions coming from the curious audience than probably I can formulate.
Yes, good.
So let's see, you know, we have folks here that live the experience and who know it well, who document it. Let's just get some questions going, and that's going to spark up a whole other set of level of this thing right here in the front. Here you go, Senora.
Peace. Oh, what I've been watching from knowing the dance crews and the street families is the strong loyalty and brotherhood that I see in the families, but not as often in the dance crews and the hip hop side. Do you guys want to speak about that?
To me, it's very simple. You're good, and I see that you're, family orientated or whatever. Loyalty is the best thing. That's what I preach. Because you know what? If there's loyalty, everybody can be on one level, not wanting to be better or the other. Because to me, everybody's the same. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has a different gift, so we all on the same level because we all have different, gifts and shit. We can all use it to help each other out. That's the way I look at it. Anybody that goes on a different level because they want to be, to me, loyalty is the main thing to me. And I try to maintain that, and I try to show it, and I try to go and show it to all the other people out there. I try to go and help them and show them, man, this is the way. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
I just want to add, when I decided to throw patches on, I think that some of the people in the hip-hop world were, trying to figure me out. What's up? He's supposed to be a positive guy, peaceful, dancer, this and that. And, which I believe I am, but there's, many dimensions to a person. And so I think that because of the stigma that comes with wearing patches and being with a street family, I think that certain people couldn't peg me out, so they just started criticizing. And that's where some of the loyalty starts to fly out the window. So I got in a few arguments with some people where I was like, you know what, you should join the club to learn about loyalty and learn about honor and respect. Because I think too many people are given that privilege too quickly. Whereas when you prospect to be part of a club like this, I'm part of La West Side Familia, Savage Skulls, Ghetto Brothers. You earn your patches, you earn your colors. This came from the bikers, where you prospect, bottom rocker, top rocker, center patch, and it happens different ways sometimes depending on the club. But the point is that you earn all of that. You're not all of a sudden given carte blanche from the jump. And you're not going to be trusted from day one. You're not. You earn your trust. And so that's the problem with some of these dance crews and other organizations that have not had the same kind of education that I had, you know. Of course, because of knowing people like Blackie and knowing the Savage Samurais and somewhat growing up in this kind of environment. So I get it, but everyone doesn't get it. That's what it is. And honestly, it comes from your heart. If you strip away all the patches and all of this stuff, human beings, period, if your heart is in the right place and you're born with the ability and these attributes of loyalty and honor and what have you, then you would fight to maintain it. If not, then, you know, you'll be like these mequetrefes out there that fake the funk.
And I think that, you know, it's a telling thing that today we have people like this in our community who are telling other youth the real deal, and we're the ones that were talking the crap and putting them down as less than. They're not around. They're not coming out here to do anything for the community. And these gentlemen are here doing it one way or another, and still proof is in the pudding that they belong to the community. That's the biggest difference.
I'd like to add that what we're listening to started in the streets when you guys were children, as Rita would say. Street culture in New York City is incredibly creative. And, you know, we've all talked about hip-hop and how it grew out of this and everything, and everybody's creative, creating dance forms, graffiti, art, you know, all of that. Same with the gangs. Incredibly creative, given the circumstances of the city at the time, the disinvestment and what it had caused in terms of hardship, danger, you know, really, it was destructive times back in the 60s and early 70s. Your response to it was creative, incredibly so. Mm-hmm. To organize yourselves in families, mm-hmm. For protection and for a way of dealing with yourselves, your friends, and others.
That we became a family ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what it was in.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Bring them up. Come on. Don't be shy.
I think they're scared.
Intimidated, yes.
Oh.
Excuse me, I'm not much of a speaker, but I'd like to say something. I was born here in the Bronx. My name's Roy, for you who don't know me. And my parents, they kidnapped me to Puerto Rico at around 64, but I came back. Always a bit in and out, back and forth, 70s. Then I came back on my own in the 80s, and I stayed. When I moved to this neighborhood, the gangs, they were around here. The bikers, there was like 3 or 4, 5 or 6. And I remember going to church here, because I was an altar boy. Even though I was born in the hood, I used to go to church and serve with the mass and everything. And you see the little old ladies going down to church, and I'm like, these ladies are crazy, because we had a crack gang in our building. You know, they sold crack out of the building. Something like that. There was always shooting, somebody was getting dead or something. So these ladies, how these ladies, you know, survive, how they do this? And I asked one of them, aren't you scared, man? I used to look out for them, don't get me wrong, and I'm like I said. And they said, these biker gangs, they the ones, when they here, nobody mess with us. Because your guys used to look out for them. And you'll look out for all persons that were vulnerable and whatnot. And I always respect you all and look up to you all. You're in my prayers all the time. Because that's what I got from the old folks when I came back home. You always looking out for them, and that hit home.
There you go.
Thank you,
Back here, that's what's up.
My name's Edwin. I grew up in the Bronx in Hunts Point, and I just want to say thank you for everything you did. You sparked so much inspiration and love in my heart. My older brother was probably one of those little kids at that time. Now he's 40 years old. He's a firefighter, but we lived on Costa Street. Every day he used to come home with a black and blue eye, you know, like always fighting every other day. And I was the one who was kept at home, sheltered in the books and stuff. And so I just wanted to say that film, everything, what you did in the past meant a lot to me, and what I hope to do in the future as a documentary photographer. One question I had was, the film talks about it quite a bit with snippets of, you know, what the news was saying and what the press was saying. I want to hear from your perspective how the press had an impact on how you felt, you know, representation was made out about the neighborhood.
It was made to their benefit too, so they can sell more newspapers. It wasn't always true.
Yeah.
You know,
And we
to
proved
get
them wrong.
to get the real message across, you got to be truthful in everything you say,
Right.
so that people can understand. These people, all they was thinking about was making money. You understand what I'm saying?
Making us look
And giving us the negative. Believe it or not, it wasn't that we was negative. They were the negative. They gave us that, so everybody looked at us as we was negative. You know?
That's why every time we walked around the streets, people would look at us with this look. Like Blackie just pointed out. What you read in the paper, you're going to believe it. Oh man, look, these guys are really like this. No. When you get to I had a chain like this. I had a knife over here. My head was like this. But that was my facade. When you approached me, I wasn't like that at all. Remember that guy from, does anybody remember he has seen the film Superfly?
Yep.
Yeah, Ron O'Neal.
Ron O'Neal, but there's a guy in the back of the album, he's got paint here. I forgot his name. What's his name? It'll come one day. He came to my house because they wanted, the NBC Channel 4 wanted to do a documentary. I kept on telling Henry to try to get that film. It's called From Gangs to Ghetto Brothers, a 4-day special on NBC. So he came to my house, knocked on the door. The first thing he did, playing around, right, he jumped back. Fabel, he jumped back. I said, what was the expression? Oh, because according to the paper, man, you're going to jump out on the roof with a machine gun. And I understand. That's what the papers say. How do you judge me now? He said, you're nowhere next to me. That's exactly what Blackie's saying. You got to get to know us. To really know us, approach us, talk to us. We're people just like anybody else. And some people, you can't cross that line. I mean, but I tolerated a lot of crap back in the days. But we proved them wrong. You know, so be careful what you read. If you want to prove something, you have to eat the fruit to that, you know.
And you know, one of the things we know for sure is like during the time of the burning of the Bronx, we're the ones that were victimized, and yet the history is written like we burnt it down. Right? We could barely afford the mattress, and yet we were the ones pouring the gasoline. It doesn't add up, but yet that's how it's written, right? So when you see what he's saying here, it's the same thing, right? The Bronx was burnt down for profit. You know, we don't have 2 cents to rub together, but somehow we did. You know, so, and it continues, and I think this is where we're at now in the Bronx, where we're just coming out of that fog, right? We're just coming out of that fog. And we have to be careful because I think when I first wrote the proposal to PBS years ago about a documentary on this, I said the third act of the Bronx, we're not going to be forced out at the end of a lit match. It's going to be gentrification, right? So the same people that burnt this out in the 70s and 80s are still there looking to move us out now, right? We put their kids through college, and now they want to kick ours out. So, and it's the same cycle, you know. So with people, the victims, you know, are re-victimized. So, you know, films like this, that although they're gritty, sometimes hard to look at because we think back and say, that's not how we were, that's not what we went through. Of course it is. It's there in black and white. But we were people too, right? We were humans. Our parents are putting us through school. I don't think that anybody is born thinking that your children are not going to be something, right? We all have aspirations, but we work with the best resources that we have, and that's what we had during that time. And the good thing is that we're still here, right? The Bronx is still here, we're still here, and we have folks like this that are testament to the fact that even what you saw on the screen is not really what was going on, right? Because they were just being kids like anyone else was being kids, and they were doing it within the environment that we had at the time. Any more questions? Up here in front? Then we'll take it to the back.
With all those gangs that are existing now in this neighborhood and throughout the Bronx, and throughout the 5 boroughs, what do you think is the solution to get them together? It's like we went backwards.
Actually, they are together, man. You don't hear about the gangs fighting like we used to way back then.
That's right.
You know, each one has their own agenda. You know, they got toy runs, pamper runs, you know, for families. They got everything, man. You know, they donate clothes to the families or whatever. You know, we all have different things. So we all get together when events like that happen. You know, if we throw something, they'll come down. But it's not like before that we were just out there in the street corner hanging out, you know. And, no, now we get together for different events, you know. But we don't be hanging out because we all work, you know, whatever. But we do hang out. You know, it's not like before, hanging out and fighting over, you know. No, we all get together for events, you know.
I mean, like the little kids, like I'm a high school teacher and I have students.
Well, I tried that. I was PTA president of a school. And that was shut down by the principal because he wanted the glory. I don't want no glory. I just wanted to, you know, give something back to the kids and all this. You know, I implemented the peer mediation program there. He didn't like that. But it worked out good because it stopped the Zulu Nation and Nietas fighting against each other in the school. You understand what I'm saying? And to this day, these kids see me and they're like, you know, they still like acknowledge me, yo, thank you, man, you know. And they're doing good. They're all in school, you know, but somebody, man, that's, you know, real, how you say, what's that word? When he doesn't call himself. You know, everything.
Selfish.
Yeah, he's just selfish, you know, and he had to do everything. He didn't want, you know, and like, he tried to sabotage elections or whatever in the second year. I said, look, you want it, you do it. Now he's no longer a principal because he couldn't handle it. So, you know, hey, what happened?
Same old story.
You know, so, you know, it's like I said before. We all have to get together and show that, you know, hey, we can do it. You know, people that are you know, what's that word? I gotta get that word. You know, yeah, and his ego is, he wants everything. Those are the people you gotta look out for. Because those are the people that are stagnators and push us back. You know what I'm saying? When everybody, the joy of it is, damn, you know, I was there to help these people do this and go forward. That's the reward that you get. Yo, that self-satisfaction that you help somebody get over that hurdle that they were there and that was in front of them.
I think all you guys have worked with young people.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And I think also maybe as parents that you had a certain wisdom from your own experience that you were able to pass on to your kids.
Yeah.
And how your kids, how have they done?
They're doing good.
Okay.
They do good. They never been in a gang. That's another myth. Everything. None of my kids are in gang. Never will be, and never, you know, not even my grandkids. You know, they do good. They're doing better than me.
Let me ask you, Fabel, one question, because you're doing the events for quite a while. You get quite a following. How do you see those incidents that took place in those days and how it sort of morphed into the hip hop and scene, and how do you see it today with the young generation that sort of is on the periphery now and maybe that comes out to volunteer, or, you know, how's the interaction between the old timers of hip hop? Because I know you get them all, but how do you see that sort of, are there any connections, any bonds these days, or is it, you know, has any of that come through?
Well, for starters, it's my wife, Christy, who's right here, sitting in the front. She and I have a movement, I guess you can say, called Tools of War. It sounds menacing. The subtitle is Grassroots Hip Hop. Essentially, I chose the name because of the competitive nature of hip hop culture and how we're constantly battling, you know, dancing battles, MCs, etc. And so that's why I chose the name. What Christy did with it was she was like, because I would tell her when we first got married, I would tell her about the park jams and how I felt that was like the essence of hip hop. The epicenter of hip hop was at a park jam, a block party, where it's free, you know, all ages, you know, no dress code, etc. Grandchildren, grandmothers. grandfathers. So we did it. So this is what, our 14th year coming out? No?
Since 2003.
Since 2000 what?
2003 is our first year.
Right, 2003. So,
It's been going.
yeah, so our biggest draw is in Katona Park. It's called the Tools Award True School Park Jam Series. We start in June, now we're pushing it to September as well. But Katona Park is where we started, and it's every Thursday in July at Katona Park, usually from 4 to 8. But they're kind of playing games with us with the time and all that now. But to answer your question more directly, since I grew up at a time where anything could go down at a block party, it can be a great time and all of a sudden it's a fight or a shootout. And since I knew that I was, okay, this is years later, but there's even more guns out there that are accessible, etc. So anything could go wrong at any given point. So what I did was I beat them to the punch. I invited our crew, other street families to come through, from the Savage Skulls to the Savage Nomads to the Chinglings, etc. And so I figured if any of these little mocosos want to try it, then guess what? Here we are. You know what I mean? So I figured, you want to F around, you lay around. So and it worked like a charm. Now, have we had incidents where some people I felt should have gotten lit up? Of course. But we practiced self-restraint, and I think that it went a long way. I think that the most dangerous tool on earth is the tongue, because that's typically what sets it off. So at the same time, it's also like the medicine.
Exactly.
So it depends on how you approach certain,
What dosage you give.
Exactly, what dosage you give. So that's how we've handled it, and then eventually we got Zulu Warrior Security. So we have bonded security crew now. So it doesn't have to be me ready to hit someone over the head with my tripod. Because I just want to record it. You know what I mean? I want to have fun and record it.
And the handful of events that I've gone to, they're really well organized. You never know who's going to drop by. I mean, you're talking about people that you read about in the history books. Just come by to hang out, do their thing. And it's a very eclectic mix too. Because you get people that are just emerging and sort of taking breakdancing in a different way, and they come out to try, because everybody just gets a minute to get in there, and it's really awesome. If you really, really want to see what it used to be like, you go to their parties. The interesting thing is, like, you talk about you've been doing it since 2003, but the list that I see is huge, and any time that anything has happened, for instance, when we did the exhibit here and we had the second one in Jennings, the minute that you guys sort of said, blessed us by reposting it, it's like all of a sudden it's like 300 new people that say they're going. Because I guess, they take it that you guys are doing the legit stuff, and if you guys say it's cool, it's cool.
Well, again, that would be Christy with her newsletter. We got to give it up to her, She started the Tools Award. I think because of my name in hip-hop and, whatever fame I have and what have you, and they tend to think it's me, that all of this is me. The newsletter is almost entirely her. Actually, it is. The park jam, she's the brains, I'm the muscle. And so we kind of work things out along the way, but definitely thank you, Christy, for breathing life into the name Tools of War. Appreciate that.
Can I add one thing though? Is that the cool thing, one of the biggest criticisms within the rap music industry is that no one respects its pioneers. Like, we don't have a Rolling Stone version for hip hop where our Led Zeppelins and our Rolling Stones are respected or get any press at all. So what I like about our park jams is Africa Bambaataa comes through, Flash comes through, Herc is there, the Chinglings come through, the Spades, the Savages, the Samurais, everybody, it's not Samurais, but Skulls, the Nomads, everybody comes through and everybody gets respected. And I think that sets a good example. And also we have a all people welcome policy, so no one's worried about, I'm this color or I'm that race and I'm not going to fit in up in the Bronx. Everybody's welcome. And what I do love about the street families especially is, you know, for me, you know, who also gets judged on the streets, is that they're the most non-judgmental. Like, you can walk up to a guy wearing colors and give him a big hug and we're cool, but the guy with the suit's looking at me sideways. You know, so thank you guys for always being so welcome.
Let's see a hand up in the back here. Here you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, listening to all you guys, I know that my generation, and me included, I know we're like punks. Because the first thing I was thinking was like,
you are what you want to be.
oh, that's not what I wanted to be.
You are what you want to be.
All right, but like I was
Remember,
thinking.
even though you say you're a punk, man, you know what? There come a time, man, where you're gonna come out and you're gonna see for yourself, man, that you're not a punk.
There you go.
But I guess to
So you want to change
continue.
that question?
I'm gonna fix it up a little bit. All right, so I was thinking, like, I heard what you guys were saying, like, about like the patches, and I'm over here thinking, like, the first thing I thought was, wow, man, that's cool. I want one of those, and that's like the mentality, like, some of us have, like, I guess, like the youth today is like, we want the stuff, but we don't even know what went in to get those patches. We don't know the history.
Family's coat of arms.
Word. So it's like,
Pretty much.
I know that the way that I was thinking was like wrong. I just wanted to know, like, where did we go, like the mentality, did it go wrong along the way? Like, did something get lost? Did we not hear something? What was it?
No, you're victims of marketing.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, that's very insightful. And you're not a punk because of that, because most people your age would not make that determination that you would make that connection that you just made. So, you know, that's the thing that we get flipped on. The name calling and make us afraid not to be a human first and to say, I'm a punk. Right? I'm a punk because I'm afraid to do something I don't want to do, which is the truth of the matter, and then you do something you shouldn't do, so you're not called a punk. Right? And in those days, like he said, and like I said, our moms would kick our ass in front of our friends. I didn't care that I was going to be called a punk, because my mom's going to kick my ass worse than the guys were going to do it. So, but that's a good point you make, because you realize that you need to earn that. So you're not a punk.
And I think the difference is too, if you know, because it's an aesthetic creativity that you're talking about too, the patches and everything to wear. And of course you earn them, you go through that. But back then, when I first met Fabel, that photograph I took in 1980, he had his Levi's had Jorge written down his leg by himself, right, in a beautiful style. And I took that picture. And that's the way, you know, when I say sort of flip, like that marketing comment, that was, you know, a flip comment. But it's also true. Since that time where everybody created their own thing, it's, you know, the people with business woke up and said, wow, if we create that, we'll market it to them, and that's what's happened. And so you buy things now, if you can. You don't make them. And that's, you know, that's sad, and, you know, from my point of view, but I can't, I don't want to say it in a judgmental way, but that's what I see as having gone on.
So how will you, like, change that effect then?
If I can piggyback off of what Henry said, like originally, most of these clubs made their own colors with felt. They cut them out. They had the most artistic members of the club would make them out of felt, ironed on letters, or cut the letters out, etc. And it's amazing. It's like a work of art. If you see an original set of colors, handmade.
Not only that, we used to have some of the guys embroider the patches themselves. So you know what, it's not just, we had, somewhere along we had time because we was pushed to it. And you know what, we can be tailors, we can be a whole lot of things if, you know, we put our mind to it.
Absolutely.
Everybody here can do whatever they put their mind to do.
And remember,
Don't forget that.
Back in the days, in the early 60s, initially the colors were painted on Lee jackets. Remember that, Blackie? The Lee jacket, you got the skirt and back, you used to paint that. But then it became laborious, and 5 guys wanted to join, and you had to paint 5 jackets. So one day, me and Black Benji in the film, we went down to the movies and we saw Hell's Angels on Wheels. And I looked at the film, I said, yo, Ben, look. Look. They got rockers. They cut it out. So we went to Freeman and Simpson, between Simpson
Harry's.
and Harry's. And we bought the pelt. And so we cut it out this way. And we went to Harry's to buy the letters. And then we ironed them on. And then I had, in my club, we had Frankie, like he just pointed out, was the artistic of the group. Frankie and Piano will paint the 3 garbage cans. Initially, the Ghetto Brothers colors was a skull and fire. White rockers, red letters, but the Hells Angels told me, take it off, because it looks too much like Hells Angels. So I started the 3 garbage cans, and that's where the 3 garbage cans stood. But I got the idea from the Hells Angels. From there on, then a lot of the gangs started to do the same. They dropped the paint and they started to buy felt and
Can I also say that there's a commitment that comes with putting these colors on, these patches. It may look cool and all of that, but when you put them on, and my prez or my vice prez or our sergeant at arms makes an emergency call, and we have to go deal with something, that's when you realize what you got yourself into. You know what I mean? And what are you gonna do? It's cool when we're partying and we're, oh man, that's my brother, that's my sister. Someone violated one of our mothers, someone violated one of our sisters, one of our brothers. Now, are you still down to rock the colors? You see what I mean? So these are all the things you have to think about. The same applies if you want to become part of the biggest gang in New York, the police department. You put that uniform on, you better understand if there's law enforcement in here, hey, I'm just trying to tell you, you know. I'm not saying every single police officer has that mentality, but obviously you see we have a big problem here in New York, with police brutality, etc. My point simply is that whatever patch you're gonna wear or anything, make sure you're ready for the commitment that comes behind it.
Does anybody remember the David Susskind show? Only you? Back in the 70s, Blackie and I, all of us, we were on the David Susskind show. Something that he just reminded me of. And the host of the show looks at me and said, Benji, in your opinion, which is the biggest gang in the Bronx? I said, the Blue Coats. He said, Blue Coats, yeah. They got horses. They got cars. They got guns. All of them have guns. All of them have guns. He said, horses, yes. Yes, horses. Fun. He couldn't get it. I said, David, the cops. The cops. So we termed that day the Blue Coats.
Yeah.
Well, after that they came.
Well, they have a motorcycle club. It's called
the
Knights.
The motorcycle club. There you go.
You know, where most of law enforcement, they're part of that club. So it is what it is. You know, just make sure you know what you get yourself into, and actually charity starts at home. You know, if you can't hold yourself down and your family, don't get with no other organization until you have that covered.
I want to ask Blackie a question. Blackie, I've been asking, I've been dying to ask this. Boy. Are you ready for this one? When you gave somebody the colors, because what did they do to get these colors?
Yeah, I don't remember. Okay. Well, they hang out without even getting patches until I know, then I'll give them the bottom.
Okay.
And then they work their way up.
When the Ghetto Brothers were a gang, when I gave you the colors, first you have to go to the initiation, go to audition. This is before we became the organization, from the gang to the organization. When I gave you the colors, is that my phone? Oh. We gave you the colors, check it out, Ghetto Brothers, we put it on the floor. The guys surrounded the colors. They took out their penis and they leaked on it. If you're lucky and the guy vomits, you better put it there. Then you have to put that on, and you have to prove yourself that you're an outlaw. I mean, you smell so bad that flies wouldn't even want to hang around with you. But that's the way I did it back in there. I copied that from the Hells Angels from Oakland, California.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After that day, I never did that again. That's disgusting.
probably got time for one more question, and then what we'll do, which is what Mike always does, he says, we're not gonna end the evening, but then we can just discuss about it.
Before you end it, I'm sorry. This man right here, can you stand up, please? This is Julian Beloy, the author of my book, From Warrior to Peacemaker, a graphic novel. He wants to announce there's something coming up.
Yeah, so I wrote a graphic novel about Benji's life, which is coming out in May. Next week, actually, this guy...
There's the cover of the book. It's in French.
Well, we have, yeah. There will be an American edition coming out, so if you go like on Amazon or something, Ghetto Proper, single like Ghetto Proper. Next week, actually, at the Edgar Allan Poe House in the Bronx, there is a Latinos in Comics event that this guy is organizing. We'll talk a bit about the graphic novel. Some pages will be there. Coming out in May, check it out, and it's really like his life story. You know, trying to be true to his story. So we wanted to reach especially a younger audience to know his life story, which is a very fascinating story. So Ghetto Brother, yeah, check it out.
Thank you. So who's going to be the brave person with the final question? I see the hand up in the back there. Throw it out, my brother.
How's it going, gentlemen? My name is Dijon. Grew up here in the Bronx as well. I kind of had a question. I noticed a point in the movie whereas when you guys kind of go into the clear peace with other gangs, someone mentioned like a few others wasn't really with that cause. Some people kind of went their separate ways. Now, I guess my question here is kind of like, when it comes down to being at a gang, as a gang member or a crew member / leader, how do you kind of like deal with the hard knocks that's a part of the group that's not really seeing that vision? Like how do you kind of like either bury a hatchet in that sense of going your separate ways, or kind of like reel them in and kind of have them see in the bigger picture? What are some things you would do?
It's like Blackie pointed out, you have to re-educate the brother.
Right.
And also, re-education means you have to set an example. Because if they see you acting this way, they're going to act right or wrong. And then we also tell them what you do is going to affect everybody else here. You understand? So we have to show an example. We're not going to throw them out.
Right.
For example, if the Ghetto Brothers have guys that were in drugs, the normal thing was just to throw the guy out. We didn't do that. We went cold turkey. And he could tell you, we went cold turkey because we want you. We didn't want to throw you out. You're one of our brothers. We care for you. We love you. We go all the way out for you. It's the same thing with Blackie. Blackie be looking out for his boys. You're looking out for his boys. You look out because you care for this person. Understand?
Thank you.
We want to thank our panelists for coming out and sharing their life.